I think I had left the school the year before, but the private school I previously attended had a camping trip, and this guy that I had known for a long time brought brownies spiked with weed and ketamine. A bunch of people got sick and he was expelled. My 6th grade class went to a camp in the mountains. The first day we got an hour of free time to just explore. It was the first time most of us had seen snow, so we were all excited and running around and being stupid kids. Long story short, I ended up on a frozen riverbed no one warned us about, fell through the ice, and spent the rest of the trip in the infirmary. We went on a trip through Las Vegas, Red Rock, Zion National Park, the Grand Canyon, and a ski resort in Arizona. I went to a fancy pants private school on the East Coast. The trip was wonderful and typical senior shenanigans ensued. The shitty part was the way back. After driving 8 hours to the Las Vegas airport, we found out our flight was delayed due to a storm. It was 7 p.m., and the flight was to be delayed until 4 a.m. Good news, we got there early, so another direct flight home was going to take off shortly. Bad part, only some of the group could fit on the flight. The chaperone randomly selected the 17 or so who could go ahead, mostly the ones who were complainers or had nervous parents, and the other 10 of us stayed behind. Me and my friends set up our bags on the crusty floor and attempted to sleep. After many sleepless hours, we get on our flight at 4 a.m. It was supposed to be direct, but now they had us with a layover in Dallas. We land in the Dallas airport after a sleepless 2-hour flight to find out we will have a 12-hour layover. We attempted to sleep at the terminal, squeezing through the metal bars of the armrests so we could use the chairs like a bed. Then, almost 24 hours after we arrived at the Las Vegas airport, we board out 3-hour flight to Atlanta. After some shitty airport dinner and a 3-hour layover, we board a 2-hour flight to our closest to home airport. After all of that flying and no sleep, we gather our bags, jump in the bus, and take a 2-hour drive back to campus. I'm no good at math, but I think I spent 3 days, essentially, stuck in some sort of vehicle with no bed or change of clothes in sight. Field trip to Cedar Point in 8th grade, terrible experience. We only had 1 day, which meant I only got to ride one big coaster course of lines. But what made this trip so ugly was that our bus broke down at some gas station in the middle of Cincinnati, I think it was. It was a horribly dangerous place to break down. Plus we had to wait for them to send another bus. Between that and travel, we got home a full day late. My senior trip to NYC that I did not go on, was done by then. Was even worse, with several people getting arrested, people getting their jewelry stolen trying to get fake kids, students getting robbed, students flushing stuffed animals down the bus toilet, and the parents had to pay for repairs. I went to a Catholic high school. We once had a religion retreat trip that we weren't really told much details about prior to the trip. When we got there, it turns out it was a house for mentally disabled adults. We had to participate in activities with them, when clearly, some people weren't very comfortable. Then afterwards, we had to listen to some lady talk for over an hour about how the microphone she was holding was a connection to God, and anyone who doesn't believe in what she was saying was going to be condemned to hell. She even started telling us the story about Lucifer. I'm now an atheist. So I went to San Diego for a choir competition, and I had to bunk with all of the guys in the choir. There were 4. One of those 4 kept the T.V on all night and wanked it when he thought we were all asleep. I also had to sleep in the crack between the wall and the bed because all the guys could not man up. My grade 9 class went to the water treatment plant with the intention of going rafting on the river beside it, but the river was super high, so we had to hang out in the water treatment plant instead. The trip itself was kind of boring since the main event was cancelled and we all started to smell like shit by the end of the day. That's not what made it horrible. It started to rain near the end of the trip, which was fine until the rain got really bad and the bus came to pick us up at 4:30. School got out at 4 o'clock, I think, and hold our cold, stinking asses back to the school where most of the kids had to call their parents to pick them up. What really made the trip awful was this one girl who just lost it and started screaming and crying on the bus. I had the misfortune of sitting right next to her and I was terrified that she would beat the shit out of me or the kid across the aisle. She threatened the other kid as though the bus being late was his fault. The next day she refused to apologize for her behavior. TL, Dr. Grade 9 Satan threatens kid on bus, disappointment temporarily forgotten. I think this was about second grade or so. We went to a wildlife park about 15 minutes away from the school. It was a very popular yearly trip that we all looked forward to. There was a large enclosure with wallabies, kangaroos, and various birds that you can walk into and hand the animals food. It was awesome. However, in this enclosure were emus, the second most temperamental Aussie bird, that would peck the food out of your hand when you tried to hand it to a roo. One bright kid decided to try and take a feather off of a resting emu, and as you can imagine, that didn't go well. The emu started chasing after the kid, both of them screaming. It caused mass panic among the kids and the adults had a tough time calming us all down. I don't think he got a feather in the end. In elementary school, we went to an old graveyard to do pencil shadings of the gravestones. Where you put the paper up, and rubbed the pencil across to get what was carved in the tombstone. A girl was walking through the graveyard, tripped, and stabbed a pencil into her chest cavity. Ambulance, fire truck, and a bunch of freaked out 8-year-olds. We were terrified she would certainly get lead poisoning ... from the pencil lead. Actually, I don't have a bad story simply because the one bad field trip that happened I didn't attend, luckily. Here's the story. 4th grade, we had a field trip to the Rusty Barnacle. I didn't get my slip signed, so I sat in a lower grade coloring all day bummed out. Near the end of the day everyone returns and what do I see? They are all literally covered in mosquito bites, arms, legs, neck, faces, etc. No one on this trip thought to bring mosquito repellent, and it shows. They were also slightly red, whether from scratching or minor sunburn. I was so thankful to not have gone on the trip. My elementary grade once went on a trip to a swimming pool somewhere out of town. I decided I did not want to go, and I didn't get the permission slip signed. Surprise, surprise, I got to spend the whole trip watching everybody having fun, which wouldn't have bothered me so much if I wasn't forced to sit by the pool with some fat kid and a friend of mine and do work. I couldn't even talk to my friend, because the assistant coach, she'd bark at you for no reason and spent the whole trip yelling at us for not getting the damn papers signed, was sitting right next to us. TLDR, decided not to go swimming, sat next to fellow losers and insane coach. My grade 10 camping trip was cancelled after our year ruined it for everyone. There were about 200 kids in my grade, and as with most kids that age, we were really interested in exploring each other's bodies in any way possible. There were kids going from tent to tent, sometimes 3 or 4 kids in the same tent at the same time. There was booze snuck in from every angle and kids generally having times of their lives right up until the crack of dawn. Except for me. I just hung out in my tent and played Clue with my friend Eggy.